Okay, so as the intro just said, we're going to talk through how to build a team. I don't know why, but over the last 5 to 7 years, built 3 marketing orgs. So as we were talking about what might be relevant for this conversation for this summit, we thought maybe we should just go back and look at how I approached that. And when I went and approached those things, I had my network, I had my team to kind of go back to and be like, what should I do here? And so for this talk, I came up with sort of a little acronym for all of us to share, looking back on how I approached it and what stayed true throughout. So we'll run through for this agenda like the go-to tools for each stage of your team's growth. So whether you're jumping in and starting from scratch with no dev marketing, or you have a team and you need to scale it up, how to apply those to your planning process. And then I'll run through some examples from the seed stage company, the mid-sized company, which is Niantic, which you might have heard from yesterday on the panel, and then the giant experiences, which is with Stripe, and then just some extra learnings for fun that we all kind of probably grapple with along the way. So just to kick off, who here knows Bear Grylls Running Wild? I know you do over here. Cool. So for those who don't, he goes out into the wild, survives on his own. He has this new show, or slightly new to us, my kids are obsessed, called The Challenge, where he takes actors out and he does a 2-day challenge with them and teaches them how to survive in the wild. And so one of the things that he teaches folks about outdoor survival, and what I thought might have in common with the way that we have to approach building our team, is about this tip of please remember what's first. And so when Bear talks about people surviving in the wild, I thought maybe we could walk away from, if not anything, how to build your dev marketing org. At least you'll also be able to know how to survive should you get lost in the wild, or maybe there's an alarm that goes off in the mall. So lots of lessons here. So when he talks about please remember what's first, the interesting thing to me was the first thing is protection. So when you get dropped somewhere that's totally unknown to you, you might think, or at least I was thinking rescue, or like water and food so that I can survive. But really when he talks about it, it's like, check your surroundings, check your immediate surroundings, see what's going on, check for the threats of animals, check for, are you gonna fall? Because the next 3 don't matter. Like if you are, hurt or if there's an animal right next to you, you can't get to the rescue, you can't get to the water, and you can't get to the food. So when he talks about the first P, please remember what's first, that's protection. And then you go to the R for rescue and you look for ways to get seen. You find a spot that you can maybe put up a signal, and then, and only then, do you figure out where your water is, and after you have that, do you go foraging for food? I just naturally would have reversed that, and so when I was thinking about when I was approaching the teams that I was building at these organizations for the first time, how that flip for me happened. So here's how we go about, whoops, I hit the wrong button. How does this relate to us? So both seed, mid-stage, and enterprise level, if you just go back to the top, please remember what's first, I think it will work across all different sizes. So here we go in building in the wild. So for me, please remember what's first started with people. We're looking at your community, the people in your department, but also the people and the developers in your organization, and then the research, and then the wins, and then the future opportunities. Sometimes I think we look for the future opportunities, or we look at the wins first, and really, it's really about going back to your developers and having those conversations. The funny thing here is you could actually just say that this would be easier if people research wins fails, but the marketer and the former PR person in me just can't say that. So future opportunities. So going back to the people, the first thing for me that I did at each stage of growth was talk to developers one-on-one and meet with those teams. And I'm sure all of you do the same here. So just reminding yourself and your teams and your executives that this is really when you're scaling or when you're coming in from scratch and building an org that didn't exist in the past, which is what Niantic and what I'm doing at Stripe now, jumping in and personally knowing your community, whether others on the team know them or not internally. Asking them questions, learning what they need beyond your product, what they look for, what helps them succeed, and then just repeating that as you scale. So doing the same as you grow across regions and doing the same as you launch new products and have to build new teammates out as you get more resources, hopefully. So second was research. So then it's going back to the data. This is stuff that people have talked about earlier, yesterday and today. But really for this one, I'd like to flag that you should just constantly doing the surveys, doing the research reports, internal and external, understanding the sentiment and the barriers, and then comparing those discussions with your one-on-one discussions with your developers. So now you've already started with your people. You should be armed with your tools that you understand about what your developers need, and then the research is backing that up, versus starting with the research and kind of not really having like a comparison or a pulse to be able to check that against. And then I would also check with your internal teams and see, is this aligned? Like, are our executives thinking the same way? We just heard one thing from our developers, now they're saying this other thing externally in this larger 1,000-person research report, and yet internally, when I talk to PMs or I talk to executives, they're thinking a third. And so this is a good way to start thinking about where the cracks are and what you might need to double down on or fix. And then I would go to the wins, and then I would look at, okay, what's working? Like these things for Stripe, docs are really working. You know, and others in Niantic, what was working was the brand. So then that's when I would move to, why are these programs hitting the mark? What is it that makes this company work here? Do I just don't touch it and keep it and let it go? Do I just double down on that because that's what's working, and we want to kind of invest more in that area? That helps answer those questions based on your conversations you had with the community and with the data that you got from your research reports. And then where to focus next. So again, remember, this might also just be the fails or the future opportunities, that things just don't exist yet. They're not built. We know we need them, so that we're going to try to build those out from scratch. So where are the gaps? What are the areas that you've learned from your devs, from the data, that you might need to fix? What can wait? I mean, this is the hardest one too, where you're looking at future opportunities, and really the sky is the limit, especially in dev marketing. I think we can constantly be making content. We can constantly be making webinars and tutorials, doing events. But hopefully, with the data that you've got from the 3 inputs above, you'll have a good idea of which ones you would prioritize over the others and which ones you would save for a little bit later, and where you need to invest immediately. So here's the little acronym for us: people, research, wins, future opportunities. Bear would be super proud. And also now, hopefully, if any of you get lost in the wild, you at least know how to survive. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned, I don't know why I did this over the last 7 years. I'm super tired over it, but like, did do seed stage, mid, and now large. So I'm just gonna jump through some examples, and I'm happy to talk one-on-one about, you know, Stripe's developer marketing program outside of this, just building the org conversation, and also Niantic's as well. So with the seed company, it was at an AR technology company that Niantic bought, and we were starting out a platform for developers for the first time, for building out AR applications. And so with them, please remember what's first, was that the people, it was a small number of developers who just didn't have the skill set. I think there was only like 40,000, and it probably was even smaller because our tech was really hard to use out of Oxford lab. So we're looking at a smaller number of devs, and kind of just talking with them. They were super excited, but the value of the technology wasn't really known to them beyond like, I can build this really cool thing that I can put in my living room. So understanding that. So then when I ran the research, we'd needed product market fit. Developers were skeptical about business value. They knew they could go build something that was really interesting, but they weren't sure if they were going to be able to make money off of it. They, you know, weren't sure if we would be around, to be honest. They were a little bit nervous about going back to the people, whether we would get acquired, which is what happened, and then it would go away. So there's, you know, based on like the pulse of the community plus the research, we can kind of look at where we needed to focus. Some of the wins that this company had was the CEO was really strong with his thought leadership around AR and metaverse, and he still is today. So the community and PR knew him really well. We had Forbes calling us all the time to ask him questions and get him in articles, so that really helped, especially as a seed stage company. And then the technology was really fascinating and unique. So, and then the future opportunities was trust in the tech with the devs. The trust also came because we didn't have pricing yet announced, so we needed to really do that. We launched that within a few months and explained like what we will and won't do for developers with regard to pricing them too high, and then just the long-term stability on our tech. So here's some ways that we approached that really quickly. With the community, we did a lot of, like, as you probably all do, contests and challenges, come in, build with us. Our engineers were actually on a Slack channel one-on-one with our devs. They were acting as our support and our community leads. We had strong relationships with dev agencies, and we did one-on-one conversations a lot. We also partnered with top-tier partners like Airbnb, and we tried to get those examples out to show that the tech could be trusted. We did a lot of videos of our apps working. So we actually paid, like, through a contest to have developers build something and post a short film of it on Twitter. And that actually got us a lot of, like, recognition from the VC firms and from companies like Niantic and Apple, because we were showing, like, what it looked like and it needed that visual. And then we doubled down on comms, thought leadership, because of that, CEO, and continuing to do the interviews. But like I said, setting the long-term vision, telling the customer success stories, and showing the visual proof of the tech were the future areas that we had to focus on there. And this is just a little example, in case any of you are at a seed company in the room, of what the team looked like. Again, we were a company of 12. I had all of our engineers were constantly on Slack talking to our devs as this support team. We had one community lead who was internal, but he was also an engineer. And he would do our booths and staff our challenges and answer questions and kind of be like my partner in crime there. And then I sometimes used a comms agency to help with, like, to just double down on that thought leadership we already had. But then everything else we kind of just scrappily did ourselves. There we go. So once we rolled over to Niantic, they hadn't launched their platform yet. They were known for gaming. There was a low number of devs, just like in AR for the seed company. There aren't that many who are have this skill set, but they're very excited about the tech, but still, like, skeptical of, like, how much, they can make or what they can make with this technology for, like, business purposes. We needed to show product market fit. Niantic's a bigger company. This is a bigger play for them than at seed stage. So we needed to show that it was stable, but that it was actually providing value to brands. And then, as you all, Pokemon Go is a well-known game. Devs wanted that tech. They were, like, excited about that. So the awareness and the excitement and the brand and the vision that they were getting, they were excited that it was Niantic. There was also this interesting thing when talking to the people that they said is they didn't want to give their data to Facebook or other companies who were investing in metaverse and AR. And so, like, Niantic's vision for this world of combo, like, open metaverse and, like, not disconnecting from real world too much really inspired them. And so we doubled down on that. The things that we were missing, having no platform in the past and also being a gaming company, were just all the basic stuff that I'm sure you guys all have here today that Stripe's really strong at too. Docs, tutorials, dev onboarding. We didn't have a dev relations team. We were basically starting from scratch. So when I went in there, we tried to grow the community. I brought all the devs from my seed stage company over to do this 3-month feedback project with our top developers. We paid them and we had them give weekly input on the product. We hadn't been getting that to tell what's working, what's not working, and also give our executives confidence that they can launch this. But then also, in addition to the devs, to be able to show that this can be used by externals, we did like a 6-month program with partners across the globe. So we did something with the UK Science Museum, with Jurassic World, with Coachella, and all those apps are actually coming out right now. One just launched yesterday. And so doubling down with the agencies and with these brands to at least have 5 to 10 launch apps with, launching with us when we came out the gate was really important, so we could prove that their tech was valuable outside of just gaming. So really looking at partners who are, the non-gaming ones. And then trying to differentiate the vision and double down on the awareness of Niantic. And then the future opportunities was we had to launch the platform. We had to build a community. We had to get a Slack channel or a Discourse or a Discord set up. All that basic stuff had to be created, plus dev events, which they're actually all on right now. They're in London, and Bryn was here yesterday talking about how they're building out the VPS community, and then they're building out learning and training programs. So what that team looked like when I jumped in and built it out from scratch was the community lead, Hall, who was supposed to speak yesterday, but Bryn spoke on their behalf. The PMM lead, who was Bryn, who was on the panel yesterday. We had contractors come in and out, and I'm happy to share with folks who might need dev marketing contractors who we used both at Stripe and at Niantic. And then we worked super closely with our PMs. All our product market fit research was PM-led. And like I said, there was no DevRel, so we had to help the team hire and find the right people and build that out. So the giant scale. So then, I don't know, I just decided to go and do it all over again at Stripe. So what's interesting that you might all not know is that Stripe actually didn't have a dev marketing team, organization. And I know I've seen folks talk about, and I agree, that their strength and their docs and the developer brand. And one of the things that's interesting is because the docs were so strong and the APIs were strong and the founders are really strong, that those are all their wins that they, when they went and they built their organization, they were focusing on sales enablement, product marketing, partner marketing, like all those other pieces, because they naturally had dev marketing. But then coming in, there wasn't really anybody at a certain point that was building the team and running dev marketing. So they asked me to come over and do the same thing all over again. So one of the things we're looking at is there's obviously, as you know, millions of developers who use the product, but they're all different skill sets. So unlike AR, everybody can use Stripe, no code, low code, or senior executive, developer. They need the tech to work and they need to trust it. Unlike other developers I'd worked with in the past in the AR, they kind of are tinkering with it and the whole thing relies on that platform. These devs need it to just work so they can actually build their business. So it needs to set it and forget it. And there's various personas. We've run, as you can imagine, Stripe's a big company, so we have a UXR team. We're constantly running research reports. My head of community back there has been running surveys just to try to get an understanding of where are they now hitting these gaps, where are they hitting these challenges. We start out with how-to docs, we know how to get started, but a lot of our senior devs are hitting these edge cases and they're hitting more complex situations that we don't have a tutorial for yet. And so really bringing that feedback back to our DevRel team and back to our PMs to say this is the strategy for content that we should be writing, or these are the things that we should be creating for them, because we've spoken with the devs and we've heard that they, are falling short here. And obviously the wins, as you all know, the brand, the growth, the community, the devs are really strong community for Stripe. But like I said, the future opportunities. And the thing that's interesting too is we really need to have a place for them. Our stuff's, we've gone out there and we've met the devs where they are, but we're trying to now bring them back to a website or a discourse community where they can all get together and share and answer each other's questions. Build a champions network to try to get developers across the globe, showing and giving presentations and events on our behalf, and trying to build those funnel campaigns to target those personas. So it's interesting. It was interesting for me to, and we might hopefully do a dev conference one day, but it was interesting to understand the fact that every company that I've seen in the past 7 years where I've done this, they're all different strengths, different weaknesses, and you really do have to adjust to what you're seeing and what's in front of you and what your community is in need of. So what we're doing is, trying to get the one-on-one discussions. We're trying to build that website. We're updating our personas to just try to grasp the number of different types of developers who are using their products. We're doubling down on the brand and the community and trying to up-level those champions, and then also building out new campaigns, the social media, the funnel. I'm probably sharing too much, but data analytics, we're trying to get more there to try to track where our devs are coming from and where they're going after they hit our stuff. So probably all stuff that you all are dealing with as well, we still have over here. So just to give you an example of the larger scale team, like I said, community lead, I came in and hired Ricardo, who's in the back. Some of you may know we've hired a dev PMM for dev marketing, but then we also have a large dev relations team. There's about 12 or 13 dev advocates across the globe who are just shelling out content, building videos. They're awesome. They've been running Twitter before our team existed, and it's really cool. And then we also have an Eng brand and comms team. But even with that, and with our docs team internal and our internal tech writers, we also are looking at external agencies to help us run hackathons, to help us with writing, folks like Catchy and others to kind of get the content we need from a marketing standpoint beyond the ones that we need from a docs and a tutorial standpoint. So with that, so here's some little extra learnings that we can talk about over a coffee or a beer. So some of the things that are just consistent, and I'd be curious if others are dealing with that the same, is just constantly just defining your team's roles and responsibilities. I think Bryn mentioned this the other day on the panel, but Hal at Niantic, I thought it was great every time they did it, would walk into every meeting and be like, this is what we're doing, this is our community, and this is what it isn't before we even talk. Because there was still just confusion over to what this is. And that happens, from my experience, that's happened at every company no matter the size. Where does your lane start? Where does my lane end? What is it that we're trying to do with this thing? Is it what I think we should do with this thing? Or is it what you guys think we should do? And just kind of being that org that establishes this is what the roles and responsibilities are. This is what our North Star is here. And double checking that, because I think as we scale and as more people come in or as things change for business priorities, so do your lanes and your roles. I wouldn't assume that every DevRel or advocacy team is the same. The ones I've worked with in the past have all had different R&Rs. Some of them are really engaged in the community and doing one-on-one conversations. Others are content and tech writers. Others are there, I mean, in Niantic's case, they're there to help the developer succeed. So they're really seen as like, I wouldn't say support, but they're in like helping them build AR applications because it's just truly difficult to get started in some cases. So in every situation, you know, when you come in for the first time, understanding the R&R there. And then like, internally sharing the learnings from the community as much as you can. I know we're all here and we all know that, I mean, you even run community. We know that this is important, but it's interesting that at every stage, you know, people don't get the opportunity to talk to devs. It's obviously the most exciting part of, at least my idea of the most exciting part of the job. But packaging that up the way that you would if you were a sales enablement person having a customer conversation, packaging that up in like a monthly digest or sharing feedback to executives and to PMs who just don't get the chance to hear from the devs, and being that voice internally. And then, like I said earlier, one size does not fit all. You know, each community and company is unique. I think the previous speaker before lunch said the same thing. Like, we can show roadmaps and show frameworks, but at the end of the day, it's looking at what you have in front of you, what your product is doing, what your team's doing, and what your community needs, and adjusting accordingly, which is why I'm hoping this, please remember what's first thing helps. So like I said, some takeaways. We learned how to survive in the wild, if that happens, how to focus your dev marketing structure, and then, you know, some early tips or extra tips on building a newly formed marketing org. And if anything, at least you can survive in the wild. Thank you.
All right, that was great. Any questions?
Hi, I'm wondering at Stripe or any sort of large organization like that, where do you draw the line on your teams and roles and jurisdiction between developer acquisition and developer engagement? So kind of creating that awareness and bringing in new developers versus, you know, spending time with those who are there and getting them really excited.
Yeah, that's a really great question. In my case, I've actually tried to assign them to the different roles. And so you know, the cleanest way you can do it, in some cases you don't have enough people to do this, but one person is in charge of growth, enablement, the funnel, like the awareness at that sort of level, and when people aren't in yet. And then the other person is in charge of the community post funnel, and so I put them in charge of these are the things that you do with folks afterward. In the cases where we're a smaller team, which has actually been the case for the last couple of years for me, it's a matter of all hands on deck, and it's like these are the things they're going to do at the beginning with this person, and then once they come in, these are the programs they're going to hit, and watching that journey, and making sure you have the programs that touch each dev along the way.
I'm just curious, what team do you assign to that former, the growth and awareness piece of it?
In my case, it's been on my team. And I will say mostly because when you go and talk to a person who's the growth and awareness in all of my examples, so I might be unique here, there's like a specific growth person at Stripe that's very focused on the business decision makers, and they're reporting, actually the other marketers report to the head of sales. And so their demand gen and their growth is going to do different things than what we would do on dev marketing. And then in the same at Niantic, there were people who were on growth from marketing, but they were for the games. And so in both cases, it's been like, look, our programs need to be able to speak to devs. We can't sell to them. So it's worked out that I've been able to it's been obvious that it should be on my team. But I haven't had the situation where the lines have been blurred in that case. But I'm happy to talk more. Yeah, yeah.
First of all, thank you. That was fantastic.
I
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bit of a leading question here, so answer however you would want. With developer marketing being such a niche field, have you struggled to find talent in all these teams that you've built? And if so, how have you overcome that? And what's your philosophy to finding people to bring into this
oh my God, that's such a
unique field that we are all in?
Yeah, things like this. But yeah, I have struggled. I've actually gotten external recruiters. Like at Niantic, I had an agency helping because the internal team just didn't know where to go, and they knew consumer and they knew gaming, and so I had this one person who was constantly sending me resumes. But in the end, it turns out Bryn from the other day and Hal who runs community, I got through the network. Once I started reaching out to people personally, just didn't give it to anybody else on recruiting. Like I knew they would bring me some, but everybody I've hired, personally reaching out on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'm the hiring manager and I looked at your profile and I think you'd be really great in meeting them. They almost always came back with 5 people for me to go and talk to, and that's how I met Hall, and that's how I've hired most of the people. I'm trying to think about what Stripe. Ricardo, what did we do with you? I feel like the same, right? Yeah. And then the other folks I had came through network, all ours, not our recruiters. So, yeah, we'll all end up working together at some point.
All right, any other questions? I have a question.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I appreciated is your diverse experience between seed stage, mid-size, and now large. And so this is kind of like an add-on to the last question. In terms of skill set and mindset of people working in dev marketing, is there anything that you look for, or any advice that you would give as people choose, hey, do I want to be at a seed stage or a larger company?
Oh, advice to people who, I thought you were going to ask me a different question, that might want to go at seed or a large based on, I mean, I think, when it comes down to it, it's about hopefully understanding what you're passionate about and where your strengths are. For me, sometimes it's fun to dip into the large company, but then I always find I need a break after a year and a half, 2 years, and go back to the startup. And so I think it's really a matter of do you want to be at the forefront of something and doing, like I mentioned before, in that seed where it's 12 of you and everybody does something for marketing, even if you're the CEO, or at a larger company where, for me, when I joined Stripe, the excitement was wow, I get to work with millions of developers and run these programs that are going to touch a lot of people's lives. So it's really a matter of what you're passionate about, I think, because at the end of the day, a job's a job, and we're here to live a life and have fun and be humans on this planet. And so you want to be at some place that's going to be fun for you, I think. Yeah.
Okay, great advice.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.